My sister sold our childhood home and invited her new husband to kick me out. That's the sentence that still echoes in my head, months after it happened. It sounds impossible, doesn't it? You'd think a sister, your own blood, would protect what's sacred, what connects you both to the people you lost. But sometimes betrayal doesn't come from enemies. It comes wrapped in a familiar voice, calling you by your childhood nickname. I remember the exact moment I found out. I was standing in the front yard of the only home I'd ever known. The place my parents built with their bare hands. And there he was, a man I'd never met before, standing at the gate with a clipboard, telling me I had 2 weeks to vacate his property. At first I laughed. I thought it was some mistake. But it wasn't. It was my sister's doing. Growing up, that little house on Maple Lane was our whole world. It wasn't much, 2 bedrooms, a tiny kitchen that always smelled of turmeric and soap, and a living room where the walls carried our laughter like it was stitched into the paint. Our father passed away when I was 21. Our mother followed 3 years later. My sister, Alina, was only 25 then, newly married and already struggling with bills. I was the quiet one, the dependable one. I worked as a nurse at the local clinic and stayed in that house because I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. It was more than a home. It was a piece of my parents I wasn't ready to let go of. When Mother's Will came, it said clearly, "The house shall belong equally to my 2 daughters." Alina agreed, or at least she said she did. "I don't want anything from that house except your happiness," she'd told me once, wiping away tears after the funeral. "You stay there as long as you need. We'll figure things out later." Those words stayed with me. They felt like comfort, like family. So I trusted her. Completely. Years passed. I kept the house maintained, paid the property taxes, replaced the roof when it leaked, painted the walls every spring. Alina visited occasionally, sometimes with her husband, Imran, sometimes alone. She'd always bring a box of sweets and ask the same question. "When are you going to move out, Hira?" I'd laugh it off. "Why should I? You know I can't leave this place." She'd smile, but it never quite reached her eyes. Before everything changed, my mornings were gentle. I'd wake up to the sound of sparrows fighting over crumbs near the kitchen window. The kettle would whistle softly while I watered the plants my mother once tended, basil, mint and marigold. I'd talk to her sometimes, whispering into the leaves. "I'm doing my best, Amma. I'm taking care of your house." In the evenings, I'd sit by the old sewing machine near the window. The one Father bought secondhand when I was 12. The rhythm of its needle was the sound of safety, of continuity. Alina and I weren't close, but we weren't distant either. We shared birthdays and festivals, exchanged gifts, and even planned a small family reunion one summer, though she canceled last minute. Her calls became less frequent after she remarried. Her new husband, Khalid, was a real estate agent. Charming, ambitious, the kind of man who liked talking about investments and property appreciation. I didn't like the way he looked around the house whenever he visited, as if measuring the walls with his eyes. But I brushed it off. I told myself, "You're being paranoid, Hira." Until one day, I wasn't, but it started subtly. I came home from work one evening and found the old chest in the living room open. The chest contained my parents' documents, their will, the deed, old photographs, and yellowing letters tied with a red string. I never left it unlocked. When I asked Alina about it, she'd been visiting that day, she laughed lightly. "Oh, I was just showing Khalid some of our family papers. He was curious about how long our parents owned the property. You know him, always interested in old houses." She said it so casually that I almost believed her. But when she left, I noticed something missing, the original deed. I called her immediately. "Alina, the deed is gone. Did you take it?" There was a pause. Then a small laugh. "Relax, Hira. I just borrowed it. Khalid wanted to scan it. I'll bring it back next week." Something inside me tightened, a small, cold knot forming beneath my ribs. That knot never loosened again. Weeks turned into months. Alina didn't return the deed. She ignored my calls, said she was busy with clients, and promised vaguely, "I'll drop by soon." Then one afternoon, I received a letter, a legal notice. It was addressed to me, with the words "Notice of Property Transfer and Occupancy Termination." At first, I couldn't process it. My hands trembled so hard that the paper rustled like dry leaves. The letter said the property had been sold to a new owner, Mr. Khalid Raymond, my brother-in-law, and that I had 30 days to vacate the premises. I called Alina right away. Her tone was calm, too calm. Yes, I know about it, she said. You sold it. I could barely speak. You sold our house? Without even telling me. I needed the money, Hira. You weren't doing anything with the property except living in it. We agreed years ago that you'd move out eventually. No. Iwisparat. We never agreed to that. She sighed. You always make things emotional. It's just property. Stop acting like you're the only one who lost parents. That's when I knew my sister, the person who shared my blood and my memories, had chosen money over family. The next morning, Khalid showed up with a folded contract and a clipboard. He smiled like he was doing me a favor. Nothing personal, Hira. Business is business. We'll give you some time to find another place. I didn't reply. I just stood there, barefoot on the porch, staring at him. At the man who once ate at my mother's table, now telling me to leave the house she built. The air felt heavy that day, thick with betrayal and dust. And in that silence, I made myself a promise. If they thought they could erase me, erase my parents, they were wrong. For the next few nights, I barely slept. Every creak in the wooden floor felt like a reminder that this house, my safe place, was slipping through my fingers. I walked through each room like someone visiting a grave. My parents' bedroom still smelled faintly of sandalwood and detergent, even after all these years. The curtains I'd washed every month fluttered gently in the night breeze. I couldn't bear the thought of strangers living here, or worse, my sister and her husband claiming it as theirs. The legal notice was blunt and cold. I was to vacate by the end of the month or face forced eviction. Khalid's company, Raymond Realty Developers, had already registered the property in his name. I didn't even know when it happened. How could she sell it without my consent? That question became my obsession. The next day, I went to the land records office. I remember sitting in that dusty government corridor, surrounded by files that smelled of ink and age. When the officer handed me the copy of the sale deed, my throat tightened. My signature was there, in black ink. Except it wasn't mine. The handwriting was similar, but off. My name curved differently, and the stroke on the R looked wrong. I stared at it for a long time, feeling something between nausea and disbelief. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was fraud. I walked out of that office trembling, clutching the papers against my chest. My mind replayed every visit Alina had made in the past year. Every time she'd asked casually, "Don't you ever want to move to the city?" Every time Khalid had helped me fix something or asked about the house documents. They'd planned this. Together. That evening I called her. She answered on the third ring, her voice annoyed. "What now, Hira? Why did you do it?" I asked quietly. "You forged my signature." There was a long silence. Then a small exhale, almost like she'd been expecting this. "You wouldn't understand. I needed money, and Khalid found a buyer. I was going to give you your share later." "My share?" I interrupted, my voice rising despite myself. "You mean the house our parents left for both of us? The one I kept alive all these years while you built a new life somewhere else?" "Don't be dramatic," she said flatly. "You act like the only one who lost them. You stayed there because you were too scared to move on. I had responsibilities. Bills. A husband who needed my help. You could have asked me, Alina. You could have told me." Her voice softened for a moment. "You would have said no. You always say no." Then she hung up. I stood there, phone still in hand, staring at the blank wall as her words echoed. "You always say no." That was the justification. That was how she excused betrayal, by blaming me for being careful, sentimental, loyal. The next few days blurred into one another. My colleagues noticed my distraction at work. Patients spoke and I nodded absently. Every night, I'd sit by the old sewing machine and listen to the ticking of the clock, wondering what my parents would have said if they were still alive. They'd raised us to stand by each other, to protect one another. But money, I realized, can rewrite even the oldest lessons. On the 10th day, Khalid came again. This time he didn't come alone. Two men in crisp shirts stood behind him. He spoke smoothly, like someone reciting a script. Hira, the paperwork is done. We're redeveloping the property. You'll get compensation once we sell. But you have to leave by Friday. My chest tightened. You're tearing down my parents' house? He shrugged. It's just business. Those 3 words, just business, shattered something inside me. That night, I packed a small bag, just in case they tried to force me out. I couldn't sleep. Around 3 a.m., I went outside and sat on the porch steps. The rain had started, soft at first, then heavy. The sound on the tin roof was deafening. The garden was soaked, but I could still see my mother's marigolds, drooping under the weight of water. I whispered. I tried, Amma. I really tried to protect it. Tears mixed with rain as I realized I couldn't fight them alone. I needed help. Legal help. The next morning, I went to see Mr. Karim, an old family friend who was a retired lawyer. His office was small, cluttered with books, and smelled of old coffee and paper. He listened quietly as I told him everything, from the missing deed to the fake signature. When I handed him the sale document, he studied it for a long moment, then looked up at me. This signature, he said, isn't yours. It's a forgery. I can tell. He flipped through the papers again and nodded slowly. You have a case, Hira. A strong one. My heart pounded. You mean I can get the house back? Perhaps, he said. But it won't be easy. Family fraud cases are complicated, and she's your sister. Are you ready for that fight? I hesitated. Was I? I thought of the house, of my father's laughter echoing in the hall, of my mother's prayer mat in the corner of her room, of all the nights I'd spent alone there, believing I was guarding something sacred. I nodded. Yes, I'm ready. Filing the case took weeks. Every day, I faced some new paperwork, some new technical term I didn't understand. But I didn't give up. I gathered receipts, tax slips, photos of me maintaining the house. Anything that proved I'd cared for it all those years. Alina didn't respond at first. But when the legal notice reached her, she called. Her voice trembled for the first time in months. Why are you doing this, Hira? You're embarrassing the family. Family. I repeated. You lost that right when you forged my name. She started crying, saying she didn't mean for it to go this far. But I couldn't tell anymore whether those were real tears or just guilt wrapped in regret. After we hung up, I sat in silence. I wasn't angry anymore, just tired. But deep down I knew. Even if I didn't win in court, I'd already won something bigger. I'd stopped letting her rewrite my story. The first court hearing came faster than I expected. When I walked into that small, crowded courtroom, I saw her, Alina, sitting beside her husband, Khalid. She avoided my eyes, pretending to scroll on her phone, but her hands trembled slightly. Khalid looked smug. He whispered something to her, probably telling her it would all be over soon. But when the judge began reviewing the documents, I noticed something change in his expression. Mr. Karim stood beside me, confident and calm. He handed over both signatures, the one from the fake sale deed, and one from my ID card. The judge compared them closely. Then in a steady voice he said, "Preliminary observation suggests the signature on the property deed is inconsistent with the petitioner's verified record." Alina's face went pale. It was the first time I'd seen her frightened, not of me, but of what she had done. After the hearing, she followed me outside. Her eyes were red, her voice small. "Hira, please, can we talk?" I wanted to keep walking, but something in her tone stopped me. We sat on the courthouse steps, surrounded by noise, people, cars, arguments, but between us, there was only silence. "I never wanted it to go this far," she whispered. "You sold our home," I said quietly, "and forged my name. How far did you think it would go?" Tears filled her eyes. Khalid, he was drowning in debt. I thought if I helped him once, we could fix everything. I didn't think it would destroy us. Her words cut deep. For years, I had envied her, her marriage, her new house, her perfect life. But now I saw the truth. She wasn't happy. She was desperate. Still, it didn't erase what she'd done. "I could forgive you," I said, "but I can't forget. And I can't let you steal the one thing that still connects me to them." She looked down. "I'm sorry." For a moment, I almost believed her. But then I saw Khalid watching us from a distance, his jaw tight, and I knew he wasn't sorry at all. A week later, Mr. Kareem called me. There's something new, he said. You might want to sit down for this. I braced myself. Our investigation found that Khalid not only forged your signature, but also took a loan against the house before selling it. He's already collected a large sum from the bank using your property as collateral. My hands went cold. So, he was planning to sell it and take money from the bank? Yes, Mr. Kareem said grimly. Which means this isn't just a civil case anymore. It's criminal fraud. That night, I stared at the walls of my house, my parents' photos, the worn furniture, the ticking clock. For the first time, I felt their presence again. Almost as if they were saying, "You did the right thing, Beta." The next hearing changed everything. The judge ordered a forensic verification of the signature. When the results came back, it confirmed what we already knew. It was a forgery. Khalid's arrogance crumbled in front of everyone. He tried to blame Alina, claiming she'd handled the documents. But the emails, the bank transfers, all of it pointed back to him. He was arrested on the spot for fraud and forgery. Alina broke down, crying uncontrollably as the officers led him away. I didn't feel joy, only a heavy, quiet sadness. Because no matter what the law decided, a part of me had still lost my sister that day. Months passed. The court restored the ownership of the house to me. Khalid remained under investigation, and Alina moved back to her in-laws' home. We stopped speaking for a while, not out of hatred, but because silence was easier than pain. I spent my evenings restoring the garden again. I fixed the broken swing, repainted the porch, and planted new marigolds where my mother used to sit. Every stroke of paint, every planted seed, felt like a small act of healing. Then one evening, as I was watering the plants, I saw her standing at the gate, my sister. She looked thinner, tired, holding a small bag in her hands. Without saying a word, she placed it on the step and whispered, "These are the old photo albums. I thought you'd want them." Before I could reply, she turned to leave. "Alina," I called softly. She stopped but didn't look back. "I hope someday we can talk again. Not as enemies, but as sisters." Her shoulders shook slightly, and then she nodded once before walking away. It's been 6 months now. The case is over. The house is safe. But the scars remain, invisible, yet heavy. I learned something through all of this. Family can break you in ways strangers never could, because they know where your heart lives. But I also learned that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the weight of their betrayal. Now every evening when I sit on that same porch, I no longer see loss. I see strength. I see the woman who refused to be erased. And though the walls still carry memories of what was, they also whisper something new. You survived. Sometimes the people you trust the most are the ones who test your strength the hardest. But every betrayal carries a hidden gift, the power to rebuild yourself stronger than ever before. Someone you loved just to protect your peace, you're not alone. More emotional life stories. And remember, your story matters too.